Oh yeah, boy. Hey. Hey, I'm here. Okay, so I have some unfortunate news. And that is, I don't feel like that it's a good idea to do this stream as the one where I speak in the Draftland language, because the problem with the Draftland language is that, for one, it slows me down, because I need to think about what I need to say, and the other problem is, I don't really say much when I'm just excavating. Like, it really makes very little sense to do it, because the problem with the Draftland language is it's not designed to just talk about nothing. Like, it's not a social language. It is a practical language. It was developed to be practical. That was really weird what just happened. Can I see that again? Oh, it's a lot more smooth on receiving end, actually. Let me just see. Here it happens in a moment. Oh yeah, I could see the flames, like, standing above. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna speak in the Draftland language anymore. I might do it for, I think I will for the, when I eventually play Warhammer, Total War Warhammer. There I will. Because, I've actually considered maybe I shouldn't play as Cetra. I know, I've talked a lot about Cetra, I've talked a lot about Cetra. But if I am to, like, showcase Draftland, I think the Lizardmen are probably the best bet. Because, like, they're the closest thing that is to the Draftland natives. But yeah. The only thing is that maybe actually it would be easier to explain what Draftland is through them. I think the Lizardmen, they are Gravels. The Croxigors... actually, no, the Croxigor is... or the Thraxan aren't actually Croxigors, because they're smart. I think rather how you should maybe take it is that the Tyrant is the old ones. And then the Venox, Thraxan, and Drafels are equivalent to the different races that they created. But the thing is that each race was created with a purpose, unlike with the old ones and their creations. It went that they were creating the perfect species. It was they were, with the Venox, they were just kind of experimenting. But then after the Venox had been there and then something happened, then a new purpose was developed, and that was to exterminate a certain entity. So they created the Thraxan, which were perfect weapons against that particular entity. And they also created so that it could not rebel against their themselves. Because if it did, then it would be absolutely countered by Tyrant. And then the final creation they made, well, there was also the wildlife, which also had the purpose of hunting down the Venox, because those were difficult to do. But that is perhaps the only time when the Tyrant made something. Well, I guess the Venox, they also made them, they didn't really know much about what they needed. And it kind of backlashed on them. But with the Fraxen, they were fully aware of every detail. But then for the Venox, they also turned out to be a pest of sorts. They needed to develop some way to like control them because they were running their forest. And so they created wildlife for one, try to mitigate. He said, why did they create wildlife? That's because they found beauty in it, but why did they create the walk? Specifically hunt the Venox. But the problem is that the Venox proved very difficult to actually hunt. So the walk instead started hunting the wildlife that they seek to protect. So the walk too were to be exterminated. And then came there were also other types of wildlife function of the lizard thing, but that comes later. So what they did, they developed a new life form, and while developing it, they also determined why not make this magnum opus. So they made the Draffle. A creature created in its own image. And they were then their companions, and they became known as their beloved creation. And they are inherently very protective of this creation. And also they have made this creation to actually be able to protect itself. And they are kind of in a symbiotic relationship, at least at first. And so they deeply cared about their Draffle, unlike any of the other creation, which just, they were kind of a piece of the entire creation. This were the thing that they bonded with, the Draffle. And and what then is there to say about it? And the thing is, the Tyrant, besides the Venox, they knew exactly what they were doing. Like with the Slan, I should mention I did not know about Warhammer before I developed this. I think Tyrant, I might have known about Warhammer when I came up with its nature. I did, beforehand it was just Tyrant was dragons that forged the entire world. And I didn't really know how they forged the world. I had some theories about they just landed on a planet. They were just driving around a planet fighting a sea monster. And then they discovered the forest and kind of became enthralled by it. Like a parasite. Just brainwashing them to like, we love this place. But I then realized later on that I had this great idea for an eldritch being like the source of everything, and that would also explain how the sea beast and the tyrant kind of connect together. So like it is accidental that it overlaps in some degree. Overlaps in this aspect with the lizard men. I always had thought about the Thraxan and the Venox, which are more like minions from Clash of Clans. I'm pretty certain I used inspiration there from that. I got inspired by the Clash of Clans minions, except they're more scrawny, except for the tough ones, which are more akin to the like the king of the minions, and that was before that one. I knew about that one, but not really at that size. It's more like the size of a human or a Draffle, a little higher than a Draffle. And then much later on, I determined that these special Noxan, they are actually tyrants. But yeah, that's another story. But like the likelihood with the lizardmen and Thraxan, that's accidental. There's also a detail that none of them are really unsmart, and I broke a pickaxe. But anyways, then they forged the rifles, and the big mistake was that they found them so endearing. But their greatest flaw was that they encoded them with, for one, feelings, but also with a innate sense of what's right. And the problem is that this usually was supposed to be balanced by feelings, and not to mention that they also just wanted there to be that they did what was right, because that's what the tyrant did. The problem is that once a one without the whole like palettes of emotions, because there is after all a radioactive sun bathing down at them, which does create some patience. Oh, actually, I've broken our pickaxe. I have not actually considered why are there some Dreffels that have a more that lack some aspect of their emotions. Well, actually, I do know why. That would be the beast below, him, those below, it below, that did that, because it can influence the world above. At this point, it has been sealed beneath the ocean, but like it can still have an influence outside of the ocean. So it would have been able to twist some individuals to have a different palette of emotions, or rather lack certain emotions. But because the tyrant loved the Dreffel, then it were attached to all of them and would not kill any of them. Besides, Garkor really, really loved the character in person. So he was let to live, and he became his companion, Garkor's companion. And, well, that was what led the rise to eventually that the Dreffel would come to face what had been like the injustice that tyrants do, and then without the emotions of like betrayal and like wonder and confusion and all the other ones and disgust, then only remained the sense of justice has to be served. And so they served justice. There was no feeling of betrayal. He wasn't physically capable of feeling betrayed or wonder or questioning. He just felt what's right, what is right needs to be done. I am doing this Scrabble wrong. That's a mistake. Sorry about that. And so he leads a rebellion, and then they all die. Well, the tyrants die. The Dreffel survive, and that's when he stands in front of the leader of the tyrant. Then tyrant absolutely curses his people to all be like him, all rooted in that sense of justice. That it's only very few Dreffels who actually still retain the ability to emotions. And after a certain war, then all that remains are the fireborn. Those are the only ones who can inherently feel emotion. The rest can't. But wouldn't that mean that some... But then I have to ask myself this. Because sure, new Draffles won't be able to feel emotion. And sure, all of their original Draffles, except for one, died before the time humanity comes. But the ones that can feel emotion, when they get reborn, wouldn't they be able to feel emotions? I don't know. I have to consider that. I have to consider that. And act accordingly. 1800 miso bottle, miso bottle. Yeah, there are some plot holes there. But like the risk of that is just that some odd Draffles will be able to feel emotion. But that might actually be a good thing. The problem is I just can't overdo it because like they came to be like very few Draffles at the end. And then they repopulated. Some of them would have been raised again. There's also would also be the explanation that the Thraxan just simply eradicated the essence. But does that make sense? Would the Thraxan have eradicated Draffle's essence? Or would that have been considered? Yeah, they would. They would have eradicated the essence when given a chance. But that would still mean that very few of them actually can feel emotions. And oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that's okay. That's actually huge. Oh my goodness. Oh shit, man. You have no idea why I'm like this? Okay, you know what? No one's gonna watch this, so I'm gonna say it right now. So, the thing is, there aren't really Draffles when they die. Then they get then they like they go dormant, they go docile. Like their body just dies. But they have some part of them in their neck, basically part of their spine, even though they don't have a spine. Well, they do have bones there, but like, it's not the spine in the traditional sense that it connects to the brain. The problem is the entire body is the brain. That's another matter entirely. The thing is, when they die, the essence in the neck can be taken. And also, if you take the essence from the neck, then they will only live for a short while before dying. If their essence is severed, I don't actually know if it can regrow. I'm a little uncertain about that. But anyways, that is the essence of them. If the essence is destroyed either by a certain type of poison, there's only one poison that actually works against Draffles and any against Draffles. Either by poison or by physical trauma. Then the Draffle dies permanently. But if it's only their body that dies, you can extract their essence, plant it in the soil, and it will be reborn after after it has effectively become 100 years. So if the dragon was 20 years, then 80 years later, it was 20 years, it died and then got buried, then 80 years later, it will rise again. If it doesn't get buried within a certain time limit or until it fades, then the essence become void. And if you destroy the essence, then it also becomes void. But that's basically a way to bring back a Draffle. And it means that once... Thank you. That means once a Draffle dies, then he might be reborn again. But the thing is, this is a new Draffle. This is a new Draffle. It's not... It is the same Draffle, but it is a new instance of that Draffle. There can also be some parameters like which variant of Draffle it is. Is it a Plateborn, a Ripper, a Hybrid, a Straight Neck, a Behemoth? All that sort of thing. Those are variables that may change. But the Draffle will be... Well, he will come back. And he will exist again. And he will... Well, he will live a life, and he will... Then, if he dies again, then he is again buried, and then 100 years later, effects is, like, take a few, so subtracted by however age he was, and then comes back, and he is ready to go. He will, and that's basically how the main character dies, and then comes back in the next book. But he knows nothing of his past. He knows nothing of it, and it's not like he has vague, faint memories of his past. No, he just knows nothing about it. To him, this is his first life. Usually they get told that it is not their first time, or they figure it out by the fact that they rise up from the dirt instead of being in an egg, hatching from an egg. That's also why burial places are very much important in Drafleon, on Drafleon, because that's where the Draffles will be born anew. And well, the main character dies a lot, so yeah. Anyway, the now, the thing is, your element doesn't change. And your personality, well, it might be changed because it's like shaped by the environment, but like it's the same blank slate every time you get reborn. It's a new blank slate. And so... And that also means emotions. You have the same palette. You might have a different variant of a different variant of Draffle. For example, a Behemoth or a Straight Neck might be a Straight Neck might become a hybrid in the next life. A hybrid could become a Plateborn. And yeah, but the element is the same, and they're oh, sorry. And a Straight Neck What's it called? Straight neck, straight neck. A straight neck. I can't. But yeah, they get a different, maybe a different variant, and then but their element is the same, and their emotions are the same, their personality is the same, except they might have a different. They're like a blank slate that might have written something different. Anyway, that means that if you ever in the story meet. But this, as there is no longer any emotion outside of being a fireball, that means if you meet a plane scale or a kinetic draffle that has emotions other than justice, and in case of the kinetic draffle, if they have any emotions at all, that means that they originate from the time of Tyrant. They just don't know it. And that's kind of cool, because then you can try to figure out, can you find that person in that story? Once I have gotten the original when Tyrant was there written. I've written some of it, but like, it is a very different time. It is actually a time where people are happy, per se. They're like joyous, they're having parties. And it is a festival. Tyrant really isn't an evil entity. It is a caring entity that has done mistakes, that it has a very brutal way of correcting. And that brutality is what triggers the Draffles for to take up arms against their creators. Because unlike Tyrant, they fight for what's right. That's how Tyrant made them. And part of Tyrant does fully look at that determination with content. But other parts of it look at it with contempt. Yeah, it is a bit difficult for... Damn, it's a good time. It was a good time back then. I wish it was a draft. I mean, there was a definite risk of dying. Like, there was definite risk, and being a Venoxen, oh my goodness, you would have a horrible life. At least it would be over quickly. Like, the Draflin universe is usually staying safe, you're gonna be miserable. But if you take the chance, then you're gonna have a very pleasant life, but you will find yourself at a brutal end. You'll find yourself having a brutal end. Like, your execution will be bloody, but you'll pretty much be dead before the blood spills. If you're unlucky, then you'll be one of those who survive, and your limbs will just be cut off or something. They will regrow, so like, it's not a permanent damage, at least but it really is only the Draffles who last that long for that to be a factor. Because Thraxen, they're just basically a dead weight. Might as well just die unless you're very important and you're a tactician. Then you'll be left alive if you're very influential. If you're Noxen, too bad. Then you're not gonna get anything to eat. And it is something that deeply pains the Noxen that it has to be that way. But they can't really do anything. There is only limited resources. They have been pushed to this by themselves. So they have to take desperate measures. If somebody is not pulling their weight, they're useless. Having them around will just lead to someone else dying. And then the only just thing to do is to let that one fall, die. Even if they did it with the hope that someone would take care of them, there is just not room for that. There would be if there was peace, but there isn't. And so, it is brutal. But okay, can you hear me? Have I just been talking to the wind? No, I haven't. But that is the thing that the Draffles seek to do, because they... Actually, it is what Garkoa sought to do. Yeah, I'm just spoiling everything in this one. But that is the thing that Garkoa wished to do. Because Garkoa, he saw that the pain that he was... Garkoa is, after all, the dragon, or the tyrant, that is bound, that the main character is bound by. Copying debit, I was talking game, but you gotta respect Minecraft music. Alright, I'm back. So, this okay, so I'll have to leave in a moment. I actually need to leave now, but I'm stubborn. This morning I have to do some stuff, but I'm stubborn. I hold this thing. Yeah, I'm a bit behind, and I'm not stopping right now. So, Garkoa is actually Garkoa's wish. As he saw what pain he inflicted on the Vinox, and so he decided that this can't go on. That we need to do something. This is not right. So therefore, he sought peace. He sought peace. And he, whenever or not he did good things or bad things, like he executed effectively himself. I mean, it was not himself, it was another tyrant. He gave up, he betrayed a tyrant to hand over to a Vinox settlement so that they could execute the tyrant as a peace offering. He lured one who was politically opposed to him without repercussions into a trap and killed him that way for the sake of peace. Yeah, so you probably shouldn't have heard that. He is absolutely brutal. After all, he is a tyrant. Tyrants are by their nature brutal. Because for them, it's not a matter about the means justify the result justify the means. It's just that it's not the goal justifies the means. It's just the goal is all that matters. All else is secondary. That's also why he himself also showcased the same brutality while his soulbound individual was watching. He didn't know he was watching, but even if he was watching, then he would still have done it. Because to them, it's not a matter about the means. It's not about the means being justified by the goal. No, there is only the goal. And of course, pick the path that does lead to the least amount of whatever your goal is. And his goal was to make sure that as few had to suffer as possible. If that meant one had to suffer is excruciatingly much, it was worth it. It meant that the one he saw being tortured, it means that the Vinox he saw lose everything and cry out in agony. He did not kill them. He kept them to learn what he needed to do in order to establish peace. And it became invaluable information. But like, to be that Vinox that lost everything and then be forced to help the one who kills your everything in front of you, to be forced to help them make sure that others aren't going to suffer the same fate, well, what do you have to gain from it? Like, now that I think about it, Garkoa is a bloody git. He's a prick, to put it mildly. He's a copwad. But that's just how tyrants are put together. That's the one trait that goes for all of them. That there might be the feelings of remorse and sadness and sorrow and like feeling empathy, but it is irrelevant to them. It is irrelevant for what they do. All that matters to them is the result, because they aren't inherently, they may look as much as possible as a creature that is living, as a creature that is like us humans that walk around and live in the physical world and are like having emotions and have some sense of morality, but they are not that. As much as they try to look like that, they aren't that. They are an eldritch being that has split apart into multiple small pieces to become as close as possible to us. And yet, it just can't do it because it is inherently, by its nature, different. It can feel all the things, but it just doesn't react to them. It doesn't base its actions upon what we feel. It doesn't base its actions upon what it feels, how it senses, or what it believes. It is a machine of sorts, biological machine that has given itself the ability to feel like us. Feel like, yeah, it's still recording, but it's just not able to act upon it. It acts upon what it deems right, what its values are. It can be swayed by emotions to make sure it stops being blindsided and then change directive. That can happen. That happened to Garkoa. His directive changed. But they will be ruthless in achieving that directive. And they are not moved by the individual suffering. They are moved by the masses suffering. They always determine what is best in the highest positive. And everyone not only suffering a little is more negative than one person being absolutely miserable. So therefore, to him, it is a valid sacrifice. It doesn't matter if that Phenox doesn't want it. It doesn't matter if that Phenox is having a horrible time. Because the tyrant, he is gonna have his way because he knows best, but just because he is. And that I actually realized, oh my, oh, I love this story. Oh man, now I understand their motivation, and now I understand the flaw in Garkoa. I also have it recorded right here. I don't even need to note it down because I have it right here. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. It's glorious. Oh, it's a glorious story, man. If only I could tell the world. If only I could tell the world about it. That's the plan. If you're right here listening to this, congratulations. You just heard the absolute creative process in motion right here, right now. Welcome and thank you for listening. Anyway, I'll have to cut this short because I have to do something. Something came up this morning. What I had the morning to myself. Honestly, I didn't think it did. I was pretty certain there was something gonna stir up, but I was told there was nothing. But yeah, there is some. So I'll just do this and this, and then it's time for the actual painful part. We're just gonna. Yep. I'm doing that. Alright, and then, oh, it's actually easier this time. We just do this and this. And then we go over here. Hang on, is the microphone still working? Yes, it is. And then we just do that. That. And that. Alright, I'll have to go now. Sorry, I'm a little late for this, so goodbye.